Hello, and welcome to our Fireside Chat presented by Digital Nest and Nest TV. We have a very special guest with us here today. Our theme of the evening is Creative to CEO, talking about all about the beginning entry-level skills, developing those to become a leader and a CEO within our community. So our special guest today is an experienced leader who has created multi-level marketing strategies for many businesses and nonprofit organizations. Her passion for the community has led her to sit on multiple boards and committees on the Central Coast. TMD Creative's president and CEO, she's held leadership roles within the media industry and has recently been named the 2026 Salinas Valley Chamber of Commerce Citizen of the Year. Round of applause for our guest. Yes. Please welcome Monica Tovar. It's great to have you. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you. What an amazing team. No, thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting, and I'm really blessed to be asked to be doing something like this. So thank you guys for all being here and being so supportive. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for being here again. I know you have a busy schedule, but we want to jump right into it. So let's ask the hard-hitting questions. Mm-hmm. What is your go-to karaoke song?
You guys don't realize how hard that is for me. Yeah, I have to give you some background. I grew up with a musical household. So mariachi, cumbias, reggae, Motown, that's what I grew up with. So for you to ask me one song, it seems like an impossible question. And then I got into radio, so my playlist got really crazy.
Yeah.
So country came in, rock en español, you name it. So it's very hard. It's a very complicated playlist, but in a beautiful way, I have to say, very cultural. But I've had to choose one. And if you know my reason, it's Three Little Birds from Bob Marley.
Oh, great song.
Yeah.
Great song.
I hope it's relatable.
Yeah. I wish you were here for our karaoke night. We just
Oh, gosh.
Oh, man.
Be careful what you ask for.
Well, let's jump into a little bit about your background. We really want to know about your upbringing and the journey that got you into the media industry. So can you tell us a little bit about just your growing up in the area?
Okay, let me summarize like 20 years of my life real fast, like in 5 minutes, right? I was born in Oakland. I was raised here in Salinas, but the fact that my dad was a musician, I gave you a little taste of that. Yeah. He was a full-time musician and running multiple mariachis in the Bay Area. And so that's where we lived for 3 years of our lives until we were my mother said, my sister was born and said, we're moving back to Salinas, which is wonderful because I am a small town girl and I really love this community. But it was really important that we grew up in a smaller community for my mom to raise us. Again, we actually moved multiple times. Normally, I think it's for people to be going maybe to 2 elementary schools throughout their elementary years. I went to 5, not normal, but that was my mother. Mom, I know you're watching. But I used to call her my little nomad because every time she saw an opportunity to move to a better apartment or a nicer area, a bigger house, she saw that because it's going to be better for her children. So it was really important for us to kind of be moving whenever we had an opportunity. But I don't think she realized how hard that was for a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, every single year having to move. And I know she didn't do it on purpose. It was for the best of us, right? But at the end of the day, what I learned was to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Notes, if you're taking notes. That was something that she taught really hard and really fast. But again, those are little nuggets that you learn later on in life. But something else that she taught me without realizing was the fact that every time I went to a new school, guess what? I didn't have friends. And so I learned how to network and communicate at 7 years old. So guess what? I communicated. I was very observant and very shy. And I know a lot of people, it's really hard for them to believe that. But I was very shy. And for me to go into a new school and check out the playground, I was scoping it out. Who was more likely to be my friend? I would approach them and say, hi, my name's Monica, and I'm new to the school. Do you want to be my friend? And it was, yeah, sure. And then somebody else heard that I was new in the school. Oh, do you like to do the tetherball? I was like, yeah, I'm really competitive. I love it. So I learned early on how to network. I identified who I was, and I shared what I was looking for, a friend. And so, in other words, a goal. And that's what I was doing every single year. Now, that was something that was really hard for me, but till this day, I still network, communicate what I want from anybody. But that's a skill that, again, she was not trying to provide me, but it was something that she was blessing me with. So that was something that I learned early on. Another thing that I've actually always looked back on is the fact that from the ages of 13 to 17, I had the opportunity to work at law firms. Now, that's something that's not normal, just even back now, even today. Can't say there's a bunch of 13 to 17-year-olds working at law firms. To have a young Latina in the long time ago, 13 to 17 years old to be working at a law firm was really unheard of. And that was, again, because my mother was in the restaurant world for a very long time, but then she saw an opportunity to be a courier and eventually office manager at a law firm next door, which was next door to the restaurant that she used to work at. And that is when she said, I'll actually reenact the conversation when I was 13 years old. And that was legal back then, okay, you guys? A law firm, when you could work at 13 with a work permit. She called me over the summer and she said, hey, baby, do you want to work over the summer for that quinceañera you want to be in? Because God knows we only had what we needed. We didn't have the extras, right? So I know you want all this stuff, the extra clothes and the hair things, and you want to be in a quinceañera in LA. Maybe there's an opportunity here for you to work at the law firm. And when I look back at it, no questions asked. Yes, I need the money. I want to be in the quince. I want the extra money. There's no thinking about it. We needed it. So I started working there, but I go back. I could have easily been intimidated. I said, no, mommy, you pay for my dress, and done, because it's scary to work at a law firm. I think even now, looking at opportunities and realizing, wow, I could have easily said no, and I would have changed the entire trajectory of my life. I changed my life because I was working in a professional atmosphere since I was 13 years old. Not many people can say that, again, even today. And so when that happened, I also saw an amazing attorney that worked there. I was actually one of these law firms not far from here on Alice Street. And it was a pretty large law firm back in the day. And one of them was eventually started working for the California Rural Legal Assistance. His name is Luis Jaramillo. And if you're out there and you watch this, love you, my first mentor ever. But he was the one that kind of sat me down and made me realize what an opportunity and the position I was in to have access to this law firm. Because he realized that it was something that was very major. And of course, being 13, you don't realize that until they bring it to your attention. But the things that he kept on reiterating were ask questions, learn from the people around you. Don't be intimidated by all of these other people that are around you. They're all willing to help you if you ask. And so I took that with me forever, anywhere I went. And this particular law firm heard about these girls who scanned documents during the summer. They called us up, and guess what? I got another law firm to call us. After school, are you busy? I was working with two law firms throughout 13 and 17 years old. And again, that is not something that is very normal. And I'm very, very fortunate to be able to say that I had that. And that's just the legal side, but I can stop now from there.
It sounds like you're quite the go-getter since 7, I think you have. Right?
I was very shy, but I had to force myself. Again, being uncomfortable was it was forced onto me, so you learn really quickly. So it's either you sink or swim, and I decided to swim.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. So going back and looking over some of your background, we saw you have quite a bit of media background. How did you really get pulled into the radio industry? And then what was your transition? What called you into becoming, the CEO of your own company?
That's funny. My husband's here because it's really a funny story. I thought I was going to be an architect. So I love the design thing. So I was really in technology and computers when it was first coming out, you guys. This is a time when there was one computer in the entire office, and I was the one that knew how to work it. We ended up going to school for computer-aided drafting. We have an associate's degree, both of us, for computer-aided drafting. But when we moved back to SaliNEST, yes, I did move again. I moved throughout my entire life. And when I came back to SaliNEST, we realized that we were kind of really ahead of the curve. And SaliNEST Valley was not ready for computer-aided drafting. It was all manual, and they were not hiring skilled people like ourselves. So my fiance at the time, husband now, he was interviewing with a temp agency. And when they called him for this position at the Spanish radio station, they called William, my husband, first to say, hey, are you interested they need somebody with computer skills who's bilingual. He goes, oh, thank you, but I'm already working. And I believe he said, but my wife or my fiance has the same skills. That's right. Send her. I was like, and he goes, hey, you want to work at a radio station? I said, sure. And again, music has always been a part of my life. So I was like all about it. Eventually, I don't know how radio was going to be in my part of my life, but it was definitely going to be there forever. And sure enough, I showed up, and I'm not going to lie to you. I said I was bilingual, and I technically wasn't. I understood Spanish, but I didn't speak it as much because it was a time where it was just a little different when we grew up, that we really were pushed to speak English a lot. We understood it, but then we would speak back in English. And so I just said, yeah, I'm bilingual. Not a problem. I can fix that. But then what they really wanted were the computer skills. And this is walking into a world where technology and media was really changing. And I was at the cusp of it with that skill. And that's where I think a lot of opportunities happened, because I brought back what that attorney had taught me. It's like, you go in, learn as much as you can from everybody, and then you're also going to be utilized I'm being used as a resource, not only because of the skills that I learned, but also how I was implementing them in the office. So radio, I accidentally fell into it. And I have to say, it's my husband's fault. And then I just lasted, 20 years in it. I got into radio and television. So that was a big transition there. And how you mentioned about going into CEO, that was not something that just happens. It's definitely, with time, you're looking at an opportunity where I just wanted to be learning what everybody else was doing. I was not looking for any kind of title. The titles kind of followed me a little bit, where I was really trying to observe as much as possible and utilize that skill. I wanted to learn what I could from any industry that I could. And then when there was a position available, director of sales for multiple iHeart, SMG, Entravisión, Spanish network, that was really a big change for me to be in management. And I had a crew of, I want to say, at least the first time I was a director of sales, I had to be about 10 to 12 sales reps. And I have never done this before, but I said, hey, I've been doing this all my life. Let's just try, see what happens. God knows it was a learning experience, because I was fairly young. I was a manager before I turned 30. I was probably 29 years old and running a crew of about 10 to 12 people. And that was a lot of pressure, but I was only going to learn by doing so. And then kind of picking other people's brains. And then, I'm not doing that again, right? And kind of utilizing that skill later on. And so after my 25 years, there was an opportunity where the previous owner of TMD had mentioned multiple times, hey, come work for me. Hey, you should be a partner. Hey, you should, later on says, you know what? You should buy my company. You should definitely take over. I can't keep up with how fast things are changing. And I said, oh, no, you're doing great. But then he would call me a lot, right, as a resource. And that's where I took it a little bit more seriously. And these were conversations that were ongoing. And so when the opportunity came up, remember this network that I keep on talking about throughout my whole years, I really built a career on networking. And when it came to a big challenging moment like acquiring a business, it was very important to utilize that network and say, business lawyer, CPAs, who do I know and who do I trust? And so I think timing was a lot to do with it. Obviously, the discussion with my husband and are we ready for this? He's a very talented photographer himself. So kind of like coming into that decision, it was obviously not a decision I was going to make on my own. It was a partnership, but it was also really important to know, do we have the right people in place to be able to do something like this? Because there's so many businesses that crash after the first year. We're here almost at 5 years. Thank God. Woo! We did it, you guys. We're about like 5 years in. I was like, there's definitely some ups and downs and learning. You know, again, I am one to like put myself up for a challenge. And that was probably one of the biggest challenges in my life. But it's something that we have to do because I feel so much stronger every time we're challenged in a different way because we have to constantly be learning.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. So speaking of learning, DigitalNest is really, really heavy about elevating these skills, right? Unseen professional skills. So I'm curious, what are some of the top 3 skills that you really value in the professional industry, in your industry?
I think it's really important to have relationships. I think back in my first years of sales and being in that industry, it was very transactional. And it was like, who's next? What's next? What's the next contract? And then I realized that was not my vibe. That was not my style, even though I worked in corporate world. So that's all they cared about were the numbers. And that's when I realized that is not my style. And a lot of people were reaching out to me as a consultant, just overall. And I love that they valued my opinion. That I was like, it should be like this. It should be a relationship. It should be that trust factor. And so relationships are really important because we don't call our customers, we call them our partners. And because they are our partners, they utilize this as much as possible. And that's what I hope for all of our client list, our partners, that they look at us as their partners. So again, very important that relationships are built to really be able to create what it is that you're trying to do for the client.
Definitely. I really like the calling customers partners.
Yeah.
Sure. It makes it feel a little like home, you know?
Right. Well,
definitely.
We have a common goal. They succeed, we succeed. You know, if you put them first, we will succeed with them.
Yeah. So what do you see are some of the challenges for organizations that are seeking media today? And how do you and your team respond to those challenges?
I think there's multiple challenges. And I think is embracing certain of those challenges. Again, I think we're oversaturated with a lot of things in media and consuming so much information. Even for young people today, it's a lot that we have to like step away. But it's really important that when we're doing, say, a media plan for a client, really being able to identify, we're not going to speak to everyone. You need to identify who those clients are, who's your customer, and focus on them. You're not going to speak to everyone, and you shouldn't, because then you're just wasting money, really. And it's our job to identify that. So being able to focus on being very strategic of what you're doing for a client. And that's really hard for some people that just want to be everywhere. So being able to educate our partners and our potential clients that it is, you're not going to be speaking to everyone, because they're like, I want to be plastered everywhere. And it's like, that's good, but that's not going to get you the business. At the end, we have to be really strategic. Relationships is important. We talk about the oversaturation. That's why that partnership is so important, because we should be the consulting firm. We want them to come to us and ask those questions. So the AI, we know that that's something that's been in our industry, but it's really important to incorporate it, embrace it to an extent, right? We have to be efficient. And so people used to think that was a threat, and it's not. And I know you guys have been really good at embracing that as a firm with DigitalNest. And so it's really important that where can we see that it can help us. And so we still have a human aspect of things, and it's really important because connection is really important, because you can go content crazy all day long, but does it resonate? And then to speak to the right people. So being able to educate a lot of people on how to utilize a lot of these things and kind of minimize, not overdo things.
Yeah. Again, I love the focus on that human connection through that process.
Yeah.
That's so important, especially in today's age with all the AI and everything coming in.
Yeah.
Nothing beats human connection.
No, it's not. And then people see it. Kids see it. They know exactly if it's AI or not. And I hope they do. But there's a lot that you can see it. And it's like, It's like, I want something designed for me. And so that's where we design, with purpose. And I think it's really important that we continue to do that, because we're listening to the client and actually being able to execute.
That's awesome. Okay. So we're going to get to our final question here.
So ready? That's fast.
Yeah. So your busy schedule, managing and maintaining the business, how does your team inspire you? And what do you do personally to stay creative?
I love my team. I think a lot of people know this, but there's no me without my team. And a lot of people give me attention, and it's not me. I don't exist without them. And I'll cry looking at them, but they are definitely such, again, I jumped in never saying that I knew everything, because I don't. And if I ever said that, then I'm not doing my job right, because I'm an evolving learner, right? I have to be able to incorporate the multiple talented people that I have in my office. And I have different levels, right? So in all generations, so I have different ages, which is really important, because I'll even tell them, you guys, I'm the audience. The font is too small. And it's really important to pay attention to that, right? But they're the ones that keep me creative. I could tell you, for 20 years, to have a full service marketing firm was something that maybe was like a dream in the back of my mind, because I always had ideas, but I couldn't execute because I didn't have the team to do that. And when I was able to walk into a team that was just so talented, and I said, this is what I have in mind. And I was like, and they did it. They were able to execute what has been stuck in my head, and I didn't know how to create it because I didn't have those skills. So I value every single position to its core. Like, I don't care who you are, they are everything, because I am nothing without them. I really am not.
That's amazing. Thank you, Monica, for joining our show. It's not over yet, so we'll be right back. We got a quick commercial break after these messages.